Welcome to the Aesthetic Business Masters podcast, the show where we dive deep into the business behind the beauty. I'm your host, Nicole Montgomery, and each week we bring you real conversations with industry leaders, educators, and business owners who are shaping the future of the aesthetic industry. Today, I'm joined by Estelle Carroll from Boss Coaching. Estelle works closely with clinic owners and teams around leadership, sales, and communication, areas that are absolutely essential to building a profitable, sustainable aesthetic business. In this episode, we're talking about leadership, sales, and why communication skills are often the biggest blind spot in our industry. But before we dive in, we're going to kick off with some rapid fire questions so you can get to know Estelle a little better.
Hello there, Nicole.
So to start off, we're going to do some rapid fire questions, which are very, very quick. First things that come to your mind. There's no right or wrong answer. And let's go. Your morning routine. How do you start the day?
Oh, gee whiz, that's very personal, isn't it? Well, I start the day with a cup of coffee and then my partner and I head to the gym. We live very close to the gym and we do that together, which is so nice. Then he heads off to work and I will walk the dog and then take my daughter to work.
And leadership, is it an innate quality that everyone has or like an instinctive, or is it something learned?
I think that people have some natural talents, but it's definitely a choice. So it can be learned, but it must be a choice to do so.
What's the hardest conversation that clinic owners avoid?
A decision-making, having absolute courage and clarity around what they want first. So I think that they have, it's kind of been dulled down and numbed and they've forgotten what it was that they really wanted, what they're here for in the first place. And that's where they've lost that clarity. So that conviction, that drive's not there as solid as it was at the start.
And is sales a skill or a mindset?
Both. Is that cheating?
Not at all. And what is one word you wish clinic owners embraced?
Courage.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a great word, isn't it? So look, let's move straight into it and talk about the transition from a clinician into a leader.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I think that we can move through our skills-based training, working in our craft. And when we get into then leadership roles, we're not learning and developing that role. And so we're often operating from the technician in a managerial role and then as a salon owner or leader role. Both of them are in this leadership role. And so they don't have a new set of skills. So no wonder there's challenges that come up. So I think that we need to be able to accept that to be able to be a great leader and step into a new role and a new version of ourselves. It's a new set of skills that we need to learn.
Yeah, it's very, very challenging, I think, for people because there are so many gaps and you don't know what you don't know. So how does that affect or limit the growth of becoming a leader, and how do you solve that? How do clinic owners develop that skill?
Well, it means that we can still have clinic owners, but it means that the sustainability, the longevity of the business won't be there if it's not developed. So they need to reach out to people to be able to learn those skills, learn those communication skills, be able to develop that clarity of what is it that they want, who do they want on their team, what standards are they going to accept, and to really learn to honour that original vision that they have over and over and over again. And so you can get a bit wobbly too in that. So having that person that's by your side to support that journey.
Absolutely. And I suppose everyone looks at like a personal trainer, to have accountability, but also to have someone you can trust. Because in this industry, you can't necessarily share all of your problems with everybody because you become the Debbie Downer.
I love that. No one wants to be a Debbie Downer, right? And having a coach by your side, coach, mentor, your person in business, they're your secret weapon. They're your fairy godmother to support you when you sometimes lose faith in yourself. They're there to remind you of your purpose and set you back on a track again, because sometimes we can spin our wheels and overthink things, and they're there to help us move forward through that and have shorter routes to things as well, because they've seen what's worked before in other businesses.
I often wonder why we have teams that are called management teams as opposed to leadership teams, but obviously there's a difference. What is the difference between managing a team and leading a team?
Well, there's lots of labels that we can have on things. And I think the most important thing is that the whole team knows what that label defines. So you could call it coordination team, management team, or leadership team, or group of team leaders or CEOs. That what is the most important is that you and everybody on the leadership team knows what does that mean, and so does the team. So they know, who do I go to for things? Is it the salon manager? Is it the coordinator? Is it the salon owner? So there's absolute clarity on that. And that we move from this dictatorial micromanaging to really empowering. It's in a different energy space.
Absolutely, so true. And Estelle, sometimes you meet people like yourself. I can tell you our podcast, normally we just dive straight into it and we're done before the 45 minutes is over. But today is totally different because I've just felt so relaxed and like we've been old friends, even though we first, just met and, yacked away for so long before we even started. And I feel the same in clinics. Sometimes you go into a clinic and you're like, oh, wow, I just love it here. And I love this environment. I love the energy of the people. But how do you quantify where that's coming from? How do you identify what strong leadership actually looks like?
Well, your team are looking for safety first. And I think we've forgotten about that. We move straight through to these team members need to be inspired or high performing team members. So often we have to go back to some very primal instincts of firstly, even for a client, when you walk into a salon space, just like you and I walking in onto this Zoom together today, the first thing we both want unconsciously is to feel safe. Is this person nice? Is Nicole nice? Is she warm and welcoming? Do I feel safe or threatened in this space? The same as for a client walking into your salon. The same as for a team member in your salon space. So we look at what are the things that we're doing to create that safe space. And that can be things like consistency and clarity of a messaging. So, and even if we're going to pay somebody on Monday, that we follow through, and we are paying them on Monday, that we have an induction procedure that sets them up to win. So when a team member would start with me in my salon, actually even work experience, so I'm talking even 15-year-olds, we role played how to answer the door, because they are often the one that's hovering around the front door. Everyone else is busy. So I want to set them up to feel confident and prepared and safe. So we role play. There are 5 different reasons a client might come into our business. Let's practice someone walking in the door and you hosting them. Like, hello, another thing. Let's get back to hosting people. How beautiful. And that sets the tone at the start.
That is such fantastic training. I remember when I was very young. So I actually did beauty therapy a million years ago and a diploma of beauty therapy. And yes, we had training on how to answer the phone and to answer it within 3 seconds.
Yes, that's what I say too. All right. So before you say, oh no, things have changed, it is still the thing. Yes, 3 seconds.
Oh, I didn't actually know that. There you go. But I do remember the training and it's stuck with me and I still answer the phone with my phone voice.
Good. And when they actually did studies of the anxiety levels of people coming into your business, those first 3 seconds walking in the door and then actually lying down in a treatment room or lying down in a hair salon's basin are where their anxiety levels are at their highest. Because walking in the front door, am I safe? And then lying on the bed, what are they going to do? Or lying back in the basin, you're out of control there. So how do we address those anxious stages for clients?
Oh, that is such great advice. And where do clinic owners most struggle when stepping into a leadership role?
They don't have the tools. They don't have the tools. So they're going into it with the skills like they had before. And firstly, they need to step into courage. So know that this is a new role. You're meant to feel like you've got nervous poos all the time at the start because this is something new to you. If you're stepping into this like, I got it in the bag, you're not really developing a new skill here. You're not in a growth mindset. So that awkwardness, just lean into that and you'll get better. And if it comes from a place of heart, you're here to look after these people and have that shift. When you work with clients, you're there to win the client over, make them happy. Yeah. When you then are in a leadership role, you could probably continue to do that if you're still looking after clients, but also you need to learn to do that with your team. So that's learning about what are your expectations that your team have of you, and then how do you exceed that? Because in the clinic, we're meeting the client's expectations, but when we exceed that, that's when they choose to return and refer friends. And we want our team to choose to return, choose to want to continue to grow, and also invite other people onto the team.
Absolutely. And one of the other, I think, hardest parts of leadership is empowering the staff to sell, especially if the staff, are clinicians or therapists or whatnot, and they've, come into the industry to help people and to be doers as opposed to salespeople and look at sales as a little bit cheesy and money making. How do you help them navigate that and give it?
Well, here's the thing. I think that we need to remember that we've chosen to be in this industry because we really care about making people look and feel good. But somewhere along the way, we created a story that home care and extra services that they're not booked in for is a sales component. And we've forgotten that it's actually part of us being the advocate for our client because we're beautiful at relationships and we know so much about our client and we know a hell of a lot more about the skin or the hair or whatever it might be that your profession is. And you're not sharing that information to be the advocate and help them. So whilst people can sit on their high horse, and I go on to get my bristles up because I think you're sitting on this high horse of, oh no, I don't like sales. It's uncomfortable. It's icky. And I'm so authentic and genuine. You're actually not. That's all about you. It's all about your ego and serving your story. If we get back to really servicing our clients, we want to share with them. If you take this, it's going to support what we're doing. If you come in 3 weeks' time, we could get on top of this. And we need to learn to stop that loop of that story we had before and get back to get into the driver's seat of really looking after our clients again.
Absolutely. So true. I want to be told what is going to work best for me.
Yes. And if you don't tell me, I'm going to go somewhere else. And they're going to go to a chemist or they're going to go to a supermarket and read the bottle or look at something that's on social media and they don't know. So they can proudly come into our salons and say, this is what they're using because it says on the front of the bottle because no one shared that information. And almost feels like, oh my gosh, how did we miss this? What a fool we have been. And we have. We have to stop this loop and get back to really caring and give them a choice. You're giving your clients an informed choice. If they decide, no, I'm not going to take it today, you've still done your job. But if you decide for them, I'm not going to mention this because they pulled up in a banged up Daihatsu or I don't think she's going on a holiday, she spent enough money. You don't need to make those decisions. All you need to do is explain what you have such knowledge in.
Absolutely. And you mentioned before, clients being nervous walking into the door and the different levels of anxiety for our clients, whether they're new or reoccurring. How do you increase your confidence as somebody in clinic who is greeting people, but also who is providing consultations. If someone's not ordering something off a menu, how do you encourage and where can people get resources to learn how to do a consultation?
Yes, we will give you, so we'll go through a framework. And what we do very differently is we will get you to do the framework and we watch and give you feedback. And that is the key. So I've had a background in singing and acting all my life. So I've always worked on my communication skills. And I bring that into clinics and salons and spas because often we will leave trainings, or it could be that we've read a book and I've got that. But as soon as we're then put into that situation, we default back to what we're comfortable in. The same as if you're being interviewed on camera, we can think, oh, I've got this, I'm ready. The camera goes on and then, whoa, we bird vomit, we say all the wrong things. But if we practice that, it becomes second nature. And with somebody watching, they can say things like, did you know that when you're talking with your hands down like this, which is actually means that it's negative or bringing down on the topic. If you were to just lift your arms like this, it's uplifting. It means that this is something really good, a wonderful opportunity. Even the pacing and the pause. So helping people get used to sitting in quietness when you're asked a question, to pause, allow the client time to reflect and really listen, and then phrase that back. And so we role play going through that over and over until you feel really confident. And we get confident by seeing evidence that we can do that.
That's amazing. Do you also do speaker training for clinicians who want to become KOLs within the industry?
Yes. So we do. My partner and I also do speaker training. C'est Laurent, French. Hello. So we will help people train others. That could be in their clinic, salon, spa space, or it could be that that could be junior to very most senior roles. And then as an educator, where they might provide it to other salon spas and they come to them, or they will travel around. So how to not only speak confidently in person or on Zoom, but also how to facilitate those lessons and how to connect with people to be able to be that educator and get feedback. So they get a whole list of those things and they go through our educator training.
That is fantastic. Oh my goodness. I can already think of people that I know would love that. And I do get asked all the time because clinicians, are trying so hard to stand out and create a name and create a brand. And you can really tell when you go to a conference and someone hops up and they're extremely nervous and fumbles through, compared to some of the speakers that we have in this industry are so phenomenal. And you're just glued on their every word and their story, and they must have you in the background.
Well, it can, and it's just a simple framework. Often it's knowing how to put all of your knowledge together in a way that is interesting for the audience so that they gain something out of it and remember you. And also when you're training, when we know so much, we actually have to slow down that information so that it really enriches the learner, so that they say that was the most amazing training ever Nicole provided. And they're very clear on what that was. Often we can flood them or blow their hair back with all this information and they're left still feeling confused.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm so sure you've heard this saying before, or phrase, churn and burn, where I suppose, especially from a B2B perspective, you hear horror stories from clinic owners, or B2C, people who have gone into clinics and overspent and never want to go back and feel they didn't get value on return and whatnot. How do you educate, or what do you recommend for ethical selling and business sustainability?
Well, this is why it feels ick. This is why sales has got a really dirty name in the industry, because we haven't learnt the art of authentic selling, and we've missed a couple of steps. And what we'll often do is get our product companies in to teach us more about the products, because we're not selling them, so we need to know a little bit more about that product again. But we're missing the human step right at the start. and we're blowing back the information of all these technical features and benefits of products to our clients. They're leaving confused and bamboozled and sometimes even offended because of the way that we've missed the very human part. So learning the questions to ask and listening out, we teach in sales training for very key words. So you want to listen out for the clients or whoever's in front of you in a sales process. You want to know their map of the world. What specifically is their problem? In our industry, within the first 3 seconds, we can work somebody out and think, all right, they need this, they need that. But that's not important yet. To build strength and authenticity here and that trust is we want to find out what they think is the problem and how they word that. What are the specific words that they use? And instead, what we do is we hear it. We've got our list of questions, and then we transform those questions into technical words, which they can offend. If they say that their skin is dry, lead with that first. Use the word because it says, I heard you. Then you can go and tart it up with the fancy words of you've lost hydration here and this is how we're going to fix it. But firstly, I need to hear, did you hear me? Do you get me first? And so we really slow down that process. So it's at the start that needs to be mastered. And then how we recommend those things back. We use a process where it's more personalized and movie showing. So again, this is another bit of theatrics where we help people remember how to use those products at home so that they're using them correctly, because sometimes they'll say those things didn't work because they've forgotten the process. And yes, it can be written down, but if they're visual, that movie showing process, and we might not have time to go through that today. It's not an actual movie. It's not something that you send them. It's a psychological thing that you do with them.
How amazing. That sounds so cool. We have to definitely learn that.
Yes.
And I believe that you're an expert on the industry's blind spot. Can you tell us what that is? And, well, we don't know what the blind spot is, so we'll let you go.
Well, they're not going to like this, Nicole. This is a real mic drop moment, because this is the thing that we lead with in the industry. We feel very confident that we have got this absolutely in the bag, and we no longer look at it anymore. And the industry's blind spot is communication. So I can hear everyone, oh, no, it's not. We're so good at this. I went through school and they said, oh, we should have this career because we're good at chatting. And people say that I'm great networking. I'm a great relationships person. Yes, because of that, you probably were. You have those talents, but you never looked at it again. So our whole industry really needs to get back to our communication skills, the nonverbal and verbal, the body language, behaviors that really connect and build authenticity again.
And, oh goodness, how on earth do clinic owners do this? Like, we're all great talkers. Maybe we're not great listeners. What do you think the main issues are that we can all improve on?
Oh, that we can all get clear on. Okay, so the main thing we need to get clear on is what is it that you want? So when you were 14, 15, it was easy to do vision boards and cut out pictures. That bit might have been easy. But as we get older, life gets in the way, people's opinions gets in the way, and it becomes quite challenging. But that's important to do first. What is it that's important to you? What is it that you feel like you're on this earth for? And you may need support to uncover that. But that must be decided first. So first, we must decide. So I have this word that I created called decidership. And decidership is where we decide and then take self-leadership and leadership in others to make sure that that happens. And we do that through courage, clarity, care, and consistency.
I love that, decidership. And I know that I'm not the only one. A lot of people like me have an issue or a problem saying no or dealing with conflict. How do you communicate no to someone without offending them or making them feel that, you didn't want their product, service, or to engage whatever it was?
Well, we need to get better at just saying no. I think that when you start off with that clarity around what it is that you want, the no becomes easy because you are very laser focused and clear about what standard you expect in the things that you use and the people that work on your team. You're clear. And you also are clear about you made a promise to the people that you serve, whether that's your team and or your clients. And if that compromises that, it's a non-negotiable. And that for us to have sustainable longevity in our roles and in business, we must put on our big girl panties and say no. Yeah.
And in a clinic setting, and I've seen this over the years where you've got, a nurse injector who's really experienced, who has an incredible client database and who does really well, and they seem to have no issue turning away a client and having that difficult conversation. But for someone who's very new in the industry, who doesn't have a large client base and who's trying to build that up, and they have someone walk in with huge duck lips, and that person's come in because they want an extra meal put in their lips, and they know that it's not what's best for them. They know that it's not necessarily medically ethical either. That's where it gets really, really tricky to say no to that client who you're going to lose and they're never going to come back again. How would you navigate that?
Well, it's not if you remember the first step. The first step is you care for your client. The first step is you chose this industry because you knew what power it could do to help people look and feel amazing, and that you don't want to compromise the integrity of their skin, the integrity of their hair, whatever it might be. So when you are certain, you just need to step into courage to know the big picture here. And sometimes you might need to say that. You might need to say, the most important thing is the integrity of your skin, is the longevity of the health of your skin, is the integrity of your hair, whatever it might be. And by saying yes to you, that's going to compromise that. And I'm not willing to do that. So you may be able to find somebody else that'll do that for you, but it's a no for me because I care for you long term.
Absolutely. And we've come back to that word courage, which all business owners definitely need. And if I'm not sure, actually, I should say, could you tell us, if this even exists, if there is one communication skill that every clinic, every team must master?
Okay, so every team must master. Okay, every salon owner, every clinic owner must master their decisiveness first. So they need to step into decidership, decide first, and then honor that by stepping into self-leadership. Where are we going? What have I decided for my team, for myself, and the people that we serve? And consistently step into courage to honor that all the time, because we even have to pop ourselves back into line. Is this heading towards this vision that we have, or am I astray with that? I think for our team, when we are led with courage and clarity and care and consistency, it just dominoes from there. So it starts at the top.
Goodness me, I don't know what you're speaking on, and you may have told me and I've forgotten, it's written down somewhere, but there's so many cool topics that I want you to speak on. I'm thinking, my goodness, it's a shame we can't have you all day at SA Business Masters, because my goodness, courage, communication, sales, we've covered so much, and there's so many little golden nuggets there that I would just love to explore and understand and learn more from you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm happy to change a boat in a flooded stream. So if we have some listeners that say they're curious and there's quite a lot in a particular area, then let's move along. Otherwise, let's just make another whole day, all right? And we'll have a whole workshop on the whole lot.
And you can sing.
All right, yes. Very good. Yeah, I can do. Good. I can't dance, though. All right, I'm like that movie with the penguin, but the reverse. I can sing, but I can't dance. So if anyone can help me with that, it's so nice.
I think everyone will help you with that. We'll have everybody dancing.
Yeah, apparently I'm cringe, my teenager said.
I don't believe it. That's teenagers. And Estelle, what's one simple leadership or communication shift that makes or creates quick wins?
I feel like there's a lot of repeating of the same thing. Creates quick wins. Okay, I think stop being indecisive, be clear. So have a moment with yourself. Be very clear about the things that light you up and the things that drain your energy. The things that if you could win, you would want for your life and for your business, and step into it. Because the people that are more successful than you, they've just decided over and over and over again. They're relentless in their pursuit of finding a way. So decide and be okay with making mistakes. Just start, right? Put those big girl panties on, feel the nerves, lean into it, make a boo-boo, dust yourself up, keep going in this relentless pursuit of whatever it is that you desire. And get your support person by your side.
Thank you so much, Estelle, for joining us today. This has been an absolute blast.
Thanks, Nicole.
Estelle, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a valuable conversation, and I know our listeners are going to take a lot away from it. For everyone listening, you'll find all of Estelle's details and boss coaching linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode with Estelle, make sure you've subscribed to the Aesthetic Business Masters podcast. And if you have a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. Please leave us a review on your favourite podcasting platform or Google Reviews. It helps us continue bringing you meaningful conversations with industry leaders. Until next time, stay curious, stay confident, and keep mastering the business of aesthetics. Be bold in business and brave in beauty. And remember, success favours the courageous. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.